Welcome to Sink or Swim, presented by Squid Group, your digital marketing partner. With a career in the real estate industry, Gabby is a leader in the marketing space for real estate agents and brands. She heads up the marketing for Bayleys and EVES in the Bay of Plenty, Waikato, and Taranaki. After relocating to Papamoa in the Bay of Plenty, we discuss the change in lifestyle, marketing requirements, and what is happening in the real estate industry at the moment. Hope you enjoy it. Cool. Well, welcome on to Sink or Swim.
Thank you for having me.
How's the Bayleys life? How's the EVES life?
Good. Where do I start? It's really good. We're really, really busy. Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, at the moment, real estate is always something top of mind.
Yes.
For pretty much everyone, because it's usually their biggest asset.
Yep.
So I was keen to have a chat with you, seeing as you're head of marketing for the whole of Bay of Plenty, or?
So I am the GM of marketing for Realty Group. So Realty Group, we essentially have two separate companies under that umbrella. We are one of the largest franchises for Bayleys Real Estate. So we own all of the offices across the Bay of Plenty, the Waikato and Taranaki. And then on the EVES side, we own that entire brand outright. And so head up all of the marketing for that across the Bay of Plenty, the Waikato, and we've franchised into Katikati, Waihi, and Whangarei.
Sure, you're busy.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we did a bit of work together a while ago now, and was keen just to understand, because I think when we first started talking, you'd just moved down from Auckland, I think, or you'd been here for a little bit, or?
I've been here about 5.5 years now.
Yeah, so I think that's about right. Yeah, you'd probably been here like a year and a half. And how's that change gone? Because obviously corporate life in Auckland, I mean, as an agency, I definitely noticed the difference in terms of how it all works. But how's it been in terms of transitioning to a regional town compared to New Zealand's biggest city?
Very different. I would say, and I think it was a different role in Auckland. There are we were right in the viaduct as well. So there are a lot of long lunches, really, really long lunches. A lot of just, popping out for drinks after work. I live very central, so I didn't have to worry about driving and that kind of thing. So moving down here, I think, especially working in Tauranga, living in Papamoa, having to drive, there's just a whole lot less, I think, of that, I guess the culture in terms of going out for drinks after work and that kind of thing. We do other things for our in-office culture, but I think it's definitely, instead of you work a little bit late, go for a drink, it was like 5 o'clock on the dot, everyone was out the door.
Really?
Which I wasn't used to, yeah.
Yeah, I guess people have I don't know, I feel like down here it's a very active lifestyle as well, so people kind of want to get out and do things, right?
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, it was different types of people that you're working with, and I think that's just what they're used to coming up in terms of the small regional area. You work, is it 8 till 5? Those are the hours. And then you go home and you don't worry about it. You kind of leave it all behind. So I think that's changed a lot over the last 5 years since I've come down, not only in my industry or my company, but across a whole lot of others as well.
Well, it's even, we do quite a bit of stuff with like car dealerships and things like that. And even with that, I find it interesting because nearly all the dealerships outside of Auckland don't work on Sundays.
Oh, really?
Whereas in Auckland, everyone works on a Sunday because that's when most people aren't working.
Would go out and
they go and look at cars.
Yeah.
But down here now, it's like, it's harder on staffing, everything. And because all of them do it, now no one does it because it's like not like one dealership's open, so everyone's going to go to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we went out, I think, we went to go out for dinner at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night down the Strand, everything was shut, you know, which is so different to, say, popping out for dinner in the Viaduct. Yeah.
Or possibly, yeah. So when it kind of starts, right?
Yeah.
And so what would you say some of the like main reasons for wanting to move down here from Auckland?
At the time, I was looking to buy a house, and the only other place that I thought I would live was the Bay of Plenty, other than Auckland.
Yeah.
And then just looking at the house prices, it was kind of a no-brainer in terms of where I could afford by myself.
Yeah.
For what I wanted. So, you know, looking at new build kind of 80 square metre, 2-bedroom apartments in Auckland for, you know, $750K at the time versus something similar down here, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, standalone house, that kind of thing. So, yeah, that was a huge part of it. And the other, I'd been in the same place working in Bayleys head office for 5 years, and it was definitely, I just needed a bit of a change, but a new challenge. And the role, it just kind of all happened almost like fate. It was all very, you know, natural progression. I was thinking about it, started to look at houses. The role became available, and it all just happened very fast after that. Yeah.
Cool. And so what were you doing before Bayleys? Have you always been in real estate?
Kind of. So my first role out of university, I just thought I'll get a job for a couple of months before I moved to Auckland. So I'm originally from the Waikato, and I ended up getting a sales and marketing role in the Bayleys Hamilton office. Very first role, thought I'd be there a couple months, ended up staying there a couple years, then went up to Auckland, had a couple roles like at New Zealand Post, that kind of thing, went across to London for a couple years, and I ended up working in a lot of recruitment agencies over there doing the marketing, which is very similar in a way to dealing with salespeople. With recruiters. And then when I came back, I went straight into Bayleys head office in Auckland.
Recruitment's an interesting game, because I feel like recruitment is actually just sales.
Yeah, it was very similar. You're working with salespeople. It's like instead of trying to get a listing,
and like you're positioning people into jobs where like you're selling to the business on why to hire them.
Yeah.
But then you're also pitching why the opportunity, like why the person should take that role as well.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see why some people get placed in roles which potentially they shouldn't have really been placed in. I got placed in a role like that.
Oh, really?
I got fully pitched, and when I was like 2 months in the business, and I both had to have a chat to be like, this isn't what we agreed on. Like, everything doesn't add up. Like, I was told this is what I was doing. I'm now doing this. This doesn't really make sense. And they were like, what? So,
yeah, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
I think they're commission-based as well, recruiters over there. So, yeah, over here, commission-based. It's the same kind of personalities, big personalities. Yeah.
So tell me about that. How have you found working with real estate agents?
I like it. It's all I've ever known, really. I like the big personalities. I think working up in the commercial division, it's historically, 80% dominated by males. So I've always, I think, had to have a strong personality myself. And I've always just found the humour funny, maybe not so PC, that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy the opinions that they may have. But yeah, it's good.
And I mean, marketing, you have to have a little bit of a sales bone, in my opinion, to be good at it, because you have to understand the sales process at least. You don't necessarily have to be frontline selling houses or selling any sort of service, but you still need to understand the way of selling, right?
Yeah.
So how does that change, in your opinion, compared to, say, 2 years ago when things are absolutely booming, to how you've now had to change tactics in terms of like now where things aren't going to auction as much or being sold at auction and being passed in and things like that?
I guess it's different marketing. So from a brand perspective, we still need to do the same things. We need to create brand awareness. We need to be seen, multiple times across multiple channels. So when people are thinking about selling, they have us as top of mind. And so after that, that's when it kind of gets into the salesperson's, when people are going down that funnel, it goes from brand to which salesperson do I choose, and it more becomes their marketing. So it's more helping them with their personal promotion, making sure they understand the tools, each point of differences, that kind of thing, so that they can then get the listings. Yeah. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I guess it's also, I guess, like we work with, I think I've talked to you about this, but Jeff and Matt up in Auckland from Bayleys.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've recently taken over from their old agency that they were using. And it's been interesting working with them because like their focus is around very specific things and how they want to position, and they're very active with video, which is awesome. And we sort of help them in ways to sort of have a little bit more of a target rather than just being a general position, right? Because it's really easy just to be like, hey, look at us. We're real estate agents. But it's also at some point you have to have that call to action, and scripting sort of comes into that. But with them, it's very clearly there's sort of two paths, right? There's one of who we are and what we do, but then what we're now doing with them is we're actually selling houses for them. So like doing the campaign to actually sell their house through socials and things like that. But alongside that, making sure that there's a call to action that when they sell their house under auction, like they just did, that it shows that they were able to get a portfolio, or not a portfolio, but a range of clients.
Like a track record.
A track record to show that they can do that. And especially at a time like now where, in my opinion, doing brand stuff is really important, but at the same time, you still need to have a call to action of why to come to you.
Yes.
And
so it's very different messaging, I think, and a different strategy when you are a salesperson versus an encapsulating brand. I think when you're a salesperson, you really need to drill down and understand what your USPs are, what you offer, what your point of difference is, and make it more personable about yourself. Whereas from a brand perspective, it's that, I wouldn't say generic, but more overarching message in terms of what can the brand offer first and foremost, and how do we help our agents be better.
And so how do you guys make yourself better? Like, why would I come to Bayleys versus Eves? Talking for sales, not for property management, because obviously only Eves does that.
Are you trying to pit me against one of our brands?
Yeah. No, I'm just interested to know, because you obviously manage two.
So the two brands, they fit well in the marketplace.
But I am trying to pin you against it.
Because Bayleys is a full service real estate company. So it's Eves is residential and residential property management, where Bayleys is residential, we've got property management, but we've got rural and commercial as well. So definitely on the commercial side and rural side, they're different audiences, so different ways of marketing. It's a hugely expensive asset, much more so than a house, even though, that's still one of the biggest transactions you'll ever make in your life. So it's when you're looking at the residential versus residential in the marketplace, Bayleys would have probably less listings, but they're the more premium listings. A lot of the really expensive waterfront properties across the coast, or like we've just launched Elizabeth Towers down here, which is, first of its kind development almost in New Zealand, really, with the offering that it has. So it's a little bit more premium and probably more expensive houses, versus Eves is
your everyday family.
So a lot more listings and dealing with more, I guess, audiences, first-time buyers, investors, everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eves, I would say, in terms of the different brands as well, Eves has predominantly, we're born and bred in the Bay of Plenty. It's predominantly been Bay of Plenty. It's our hugest, market share. And we've been in the Waikato now for maybe 9 years. And we're franchising and growing, obviously. But Bayleys is a national brand. Yeah. So it's fully entrenched everywhere you go. So it's, if we are trying to grow Eves, it's how do we get awareness in these areas where they've never seen or heard of the brand before. The difference in the brands, I would say Bayleys is the term that we hear a lot is it's more corporate, versus Eves, we kind of have a more friendly, everyday, not casual, but it's a different vibe.
Yeah, it's a family friendly brand.
Yeah.
It's
which Bayleys is, and it's just that more
But everything about Bayleys is more like that. I mean, the colours, even just your logo is corporate. It's it's very different. Funny how colours and brand make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Like you even look at there's so many examples of it, but like McDonald's with red and yellow, like it is that happy meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you've got other brands where it might be using black and white, and it's very not corporate, but it's very clean cut. And trustworthy kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so would you say in terms of your market position, in terms of your marketing mix of what you do, how much of a play does digital versus radio come into that?
We
Billboard.
We do have quite a large radio spend here, which we wouldn't across a lot of other markets, but like in Auckland, I didn't use radio once. But here in the Bay of Plenty and in the Waikato, it's huge from a real estate perspective. And I think because they've been doing it for so many years, if you don't do it, you don't have that presence. And we get so much anecdotal feedback. I've heard Sean on the radio, I've heard Karen on the radio, I've heard Jono, so I think it really helps with people sitting in their cars, driving to work, and they're hearing the brands, and getting, I think, more of a personal feel to the company when there's an actual voice. It's our GMs from the areas, that kind of thing. So we do actually do quite a large spend on radio, but probably by far digital would be what we do largest portion of. In terms of, it's hard because sometimes digital is cheaper than doing outdoor, but so it might be similar spend, but we do a lot more in terms of actual activity across digital.
It also feels often like a lot more when you're doing digital because there's continuous updates, right? Whereas billboards, it's like even if it is a digital billboard, you kind of do it and then you might change it after 2 weeks or whatever else it is. It's not like you've got 7 campaigns running across however many different audiences, and then you've got everything else building out with lead campaigns and things like that. And so as a brand, do you guys feel like lead campaigns, like how does that work in terms of leads that come through if it's not coming directly to real estate agent, let's say Richard, let's say they haven't specifically asked for him, how does it then go through to passing it off? Is there
some of our ads are the lead gen type where we might sign up to get a document like a buyer's handbook or a selling guide, so we use that, or it's people just inquiring through the website to the just company-wide info at Eves, people messaging through our social channels, that kind of thing. But a lot of what we do is try to bring people to the website to find out more about us as a brand, and from there they can kind of see who the agents are, and it's more getting them down that funnel to start engaging with who they want to deal with from an agent's perspective. But I think from a consumer perspective, they don't necessarily go first for the brand, they can see brands out and about, and it might be in the back of their head, this company is market leaders and that kind of thing. But I think they usually see a salesperson first, or they'll come across content online, and they'll look at that salesperson and then look at the brand behind that salesperson to see, is that going to be the best person, but the best company wide as a whole to sell my property.
Yeah. And so in terms of the real estate agents themselves, do you think there's much of a difference between Auckland real estate agents compared to like regional?
I don't think so. They're all doing the same job. It's making sure you understand the area that you work in. You know the market information, stats, sales, you know the area well, you know the best cafes to go to down the road from this house that you're selling, all that kind of stuff. As long as you're an area expert, you're essentially doing the same thing
job.
in whatever region you're in.
Yeah. Interesting. And so in terms of the region of down here, what have you found you've enjoyed most about being down here now that you're a local?
The role, I love the role and I love the company. But separate to that, I think, like, I live from the beach, and you kind of get used to it very quickly, but you don't notice until, when I had my son, and we'd go for hour-long walks along the beach, and it's beautiful, and it's just such a nice vibe, and then go visit mum and dad, and you're going for a walk just through, streets, and it's yuck. So, yeah, I think it's just beautiful living here, pop down sometimes and have a picnic dinner on the beach, and you've got the mountain in the background, the sun setting. It's beautiful.
It's so easy, eh?
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that, because it's, until you're not here, I feel like you don't fully appreciate it. Like, it takes us 5 minutes to walk to the beach.
Yeah.
And it's like so nice. And then when you're not at the beach, you're like, you can always go down to Pilot Bay or whatever else it is. And I feel like also corporate life down here, from my experience anyways, is a little bit, I mean, in the city, there's a big relationship base as well. But once you start to build networks down here, it becomes quite tight. And you definitely start to see opportunities, not just opportunities, but I guess partnerships and just like bouncing ideas off, right? Because it's so key, I reckon, especially as a small business, having people that you can be like, hey, what do you think of this idea, or whatever else it is, because things are moving so quickly.
Definitely a tighter network down here than it would be, than it was in Auckland,
Yeah.
And I think in Auckland, if you wanted to change your agencies or change people you work with, it was very much like, well, yes, we will. But here you do feel, I don't know, you get to know people a lot better, and it's that local feel. And I think there's other things to consider. Yeah.
It's, I feel like, to be fair, if an agency though is doing well in general, you as a business, in my opinion, have a responsibility to at least give them a chance, or at least talk them through it. And I think if you don't do that, then as an agency, they're probably not the right client for you anyways. Like, if I have a client, I've had clients from when I first started where I've actually asked them to no longer be my clients because like I just don't have the time to deal with the stuff that comes with them. But I think in business...
What kind of stuff?
Just overly demanding and unfair expectations where it's just like no one really has time for that. And then also just like talking to staff that you don't need to say that sort of stuff to them.
I think a lot of that you learn in leadership roles as you go on, like what should your expectations be of suppliers and people you work with, and how should you treat them and that kind of thing, versus someone coming in quite fresh and being very demanding and not setting good expectations and then blaming you for not providing.
And I think it goes both ways, right? Like KPIs need to be set by agency, and you need to have clear expectations around what you can deliver and what you think you will deliver. But at the same time, there's also a responsibility on the client to know what the expectations are and not to push the boat out, because
it's making sure the client does a good brief at the start. I'm all about the good brief at the start, so an agency will understand exactly like the background of the company, what we need, by when, what kind of outputs, all that kind of stuff, like what you need to deliver and by when and what budget and that kind of thing. Then they can just take that and be like, yep, this is how we see it working and here you are, versus that just because no one has time to go back and forth.
Exactly.
Everyone is so busy.
No, but so to answer your question, that's what and then because of that I've said to some clients, and then they come back and they're like, can we please? And it's just like, no, that ship has sailed, my friend.
Yeah, burnt that
bridge. But that would be my only thing with down here. I definitely feel like you do build strong sort of relationships, which is quite nice. I mean, I've got clients all over New Zealand and Aussie, but I mean, I definitely feel like certain areas and pockets of New Zealand compared to others are quite different. Yeah. So in terms of the lifestyle in Auckland business, where you were saying that you had a lot more long lunches and enjoying the long lunches, everyone loves a long lunch, let's be honest. Why and what is the value in those? Because like from a sales perspective, I understand it, but from like a marketing perspective, how can we justify long lunches?
I mean, there probably is none. No, it was good relationship building with suppliers. It was primarily with suppliers, but also relationship building with salespeople outside of that, I guess, working environment or within the wider team. So definitely the value from it is that relationship building and getting to know people outside of an office environment. And getting those tighter connections. And
when you say suppliers, are you talking about like, let's call it like media agencies like NZME and things like that? Or is that?
Yeah, so NZME, TradeMe, realestate.co, digital agencies that we were dealing with.
And so with your like agency internal in-house component, how does that work? I know that creative is in-house, but has that always been in-house?
Down here, it has been. So in Auckland, we had an external design company. Down here, we have 3 full-time graphic designers with huge amounts of experience. They're amazing. And they, obviously on the Bayleys side, all of the brand artwork, brand standards, that kind of thing is driven from head office. Down here, we are the head office. So we create everything in-house, which has good and bad components. Obviously, it's time consuming, but we have full creative freedom. The look and feel, we can just kind of change on a dime. I would say cost-wise, having that graphic design in-house is a lot better. Communication-wise, they're just sitting next to us. We can, print stuff out or put stuff on screen, and I think that process is a lot faster and better communication because of that than phone calls or, copywriting, we do ourselves, majority of that.
Do you not find with the design stuff, though, that sometimes you need an external opinion? Because I fully get that certain things can come through from brand guidelines and you can follow brand guidelines. But in terms of that creative angle of like having an alternative way of designing something or something else, it can go, from what I've seen anyways, of multiple businesses that have full internal in-house teams. After 2 years or 3 years, it can be the exact same thing, just slightly rehashed. So how do you...
There's definitely things where rather than a massive change, it's more year-on-year iterations, that it's more of a journey. But I think I think that it is just like working with external graphic designers. If I go to them and say, I want this to have a completely new look, they will go do research. They will look at, trends. They will look at what works and just come back with concepts. And I'm pretty black and white in terms of don't like this, kind of like this, work with this. And then they go on and it's from there. So maybe that's based on the experience they have had rather than this being their only role. Our two graphic designers at the moment, they've got amazing backgrounds where they've worked in, print magazines or like agencies and that kind of thing, lots of different brands. So I think they have that experience and skill to say, this is what you could do and here's a new look and feel. Yeah.
And how have you found being a successful female? Have you found businesses change since you first started in corporate life to now?
In different businesses, yes. I think, working up in Auckland, as I say, that commercial division was almost, like 80% male dominated. Whereas down here, working with a lot more of that residential side, it's pretty even mix. I think Realty Group is very good in that as part of our executive team, it's pretty much an even split of male and females. Our head of finance, female, head of people and culture, female, head of marketing, GMs on the EVES side, female, and on the property management side, female. So we've got really good female representation in that leadership team, which is great. Personally, within the team, there's, 4 of us who are of similar ages and in high-performing executive roles, which there's a lot of pressure, but we have this group where we can support each other. We know the stresses that the business, the requirements from us, the high workload, the decision-making, that kind of thing. I think it's just a really great environment to have those other 3 women who can support me, just even having a grumble or, helping out, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's a good environment to work in.
And have you found, what would you looking back at when you first started out of uni, what would you say would be the main things that have got you to where you are now? And looking back, would you kind of change anything?
I don't think I would. I think I've always been, what's the word? Bit of a mind blank. I've always been, what's the word? Driven. I've always been very driven. So I've always wanted to grow my career and be in better roles or management roles, that kind of thing. I always have 2 cents to give to things. So maybe that's where it comes from. I want it my way. No, I don't know. I think it's been a great journey. Starting off in that administrative marketing role, I think I learnt a lot of the day-to-day sales business, which I think you need in order to market any product or service well. You need to understand it very well. So I think that gave me a really good background to be able to take that and help for marketing strategies or tools or initiatives that will help the salespeople list, market, and sell more property. Sure. If anything, I think I would change. I was just doing more, 3-6 month roles in London, which was just having a bit of fun. I really could have probably grown a lot more of my experience in a different role if I'd maybe, tried a bit harder over there. But it was a no-y kind of thing. Yeah.
And would you say though that because you've got drive, would you ever want to have your own business?
I've definitely thought about it. I feel like it would be lonelier. if you know what I mean. I love working in this wider environment. There's definitely cons to working with certain people that you don't get along with maybe. But I think just having this big group, I don't know, all working towards something in unison, I like.
Yeah.
Working within a wider team.
But could you not, if you owned a business, could you not have that same atmosphere of, like, not saying that obviously building a real estate agency is quite a feat, but you were saying that you like to control things and
no, like, that's terrible control. No.
But you like to but you know what I mean? You like to lead things and bring it forward, right? So, but would you not find, like, for me, for example, ever since I was 16, I started my first business and I've worked with people obviously throughout different periods, but I knew I wanted the flexibility and control to be able to know that I could push a business in a certain direction, but also give me the flexibility to focus on other projects.
Yeah, I think there's definitely part of me that would love to do that, but I think where I am now, I love the safety of where I am as well. The safety of having X amount of income, you know, knowing what that will be, the safety of a larger business that I don't have to make all the decisions for, because as a single mum, I think going out and starting a business, it would be quite scary.
Yeah.
Because you need to know, having, it's the security thing, I think. Right now I'd be too scared to go off and do my own thing.
It's amazing how many people have that, how that changes over time, where once people have dependents, maybe not a dog quite so much, but if they have
I don't think a dog would come into it,
a human dependent, that they feel like exactly what you're saying. It's not uncommon.
I'm single-handedly financially supporting another human being, so it would be a huge decision to kind of throw the security up in the air and go out for your own thing. I don't know. I don't know. I'm very happy where I am. I don't think I want to change things up.
Cool. And final question. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, God. These are like those terrible like interview questions for roles. I don't know. I think it would change on any given day.
Really?
Yeah. There'd be times where you wish you could go back and change the past. I don't know.
You can only pick one. You can't start changing it from day to day.
No, I know, but I think my top pick would change from day to day depending on what I needed. I don't know. What's yours? You tell me yours.
Mine would be speed.
Oh, yeah. It would be cool to, rather than having to drive somewhere, you just click your fingers and you're there.
So teleportation.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, I've had a couple of teleportations, a couple of flights. Had one where...
being able to read people's minds would be quite cool.
See, you're the first person to say that, and I've thought about that, but I reckon that's like way too much. Imagine walking past someone and being like, I know what they're thinking.
Yeah, especially if people are like thinking things about you and they're like, oh, fucking idiot. Also having the being able to see the future.
See the future, I'd be interested, but why would you want to be able to see the future? So you can change it?
Potentially, yeah. I don't know. See, the more you start thinking about it, it's something that I've never thought about really. So might have to put some groundwork into this. So I
have to say, this is the funny thing about the difference between when I ask guys and girls this question.
Yeah.
All the guys have thought about it.
Have they?
Yeah, or like they'll have some degree of
and it also depends when you say superhero, like What's kind of superhero?
Or does it have to be superhero?
Just
Superpower.
Superpower.
So it's just like teleportation.
Yeah.
Super fast. Can you fly? Can you go back in time? See the future? Can you control the weather? Read people's minds?
Like all of the above would be amazing.
Yeah. An interesting one is one where you could lift things and control things like Matilda.
Yeah. See, my mind went to kind of like X-Men.
Yeah, well, that's how I always related that.
I watched that when I was a kid, and I was like, who was like Jean Grey? Yeah.
The most powerful X-Men of all. Good times.
Well, yeah, does that say something about my person? Yeah. I don't know.
Interesting. Cool.
So our January, February, March was, miles apart from the previous year. Things are looking up, but it's that cautious, optimistic kind of feeling. Things will be a whole lot better in another 6 months probably, but there are so many listings at the moment. Our agents are so busy. It's just not converting to sales at the moment. And that's because buyers still don't have, the money where vendor have, is that buyer and vendor expectation thing. So things are on the market longer, vendors are getting grumpy, so salespeople are getting stressed, that kind of thing. So it's still like not an amazing environment, but it's definitely so much better than it was 12 months ago.
Yeah. And how does it work with like down here, for example, all the RVs just got updated. How much of a relationship do you reckon there is between now with everything that's been going on? Because there's definitely a bit of a rebalancing, right?
Yeah, I think that's rebalanced things a little bit. I mean, was it 2020 or 2021 where those numbers were insignificant? Things were selling 300-400K sometimes over those. Then they redid them and they were huge numbers. I remember the number for my house was ridiculous, and they did that just as things started to turn again. So things, I would say a few months ago, even probably 60% of sales were below RV, whereas now it's potentially turned to selling round about where they sit.
Yeah. Because it's interesting, there's some houses in where I'm living, and I know how much we bought our place for, but I feel like some people who are selling, vendors, and this is, I guess, the hard part with being a real estate agent to a certain degree, they have expectations of what they want to sell things for.
Yeah.
And they're just not going to accept it. Like, in my opinion, there's a house not very far from me, like literally 5 houses away, and they want 1.9 for it. And it's like,
no way.
There's just no way. Like, you know what I mean? And
that's the difference in a salesperson at the start. They really need to go in with all that information. So that's what we give our salespeople, and what they know they need to have is all the information. This is what's sold for and what's similar in the last, X amount of months. So this is appraisal based on where we think it'll go in the market. So a lot of the times vendors will choose a salesperson because they've said, yep, I'll be able to sell your house for 1.9. Whereas one of our agents might say, look, realistically, you're going to get between 1.4 and 1.6. They don't necessarily want to hear that, and they'll think, well, they're going to get me more money. But it's just that other salesperson
pitching
is not realistic, and they're not looking at the market data and what people are willing to sell in this current market.
Yeah. And it's funny how my dad's always said this, but something's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we always, both Eves and Bayleys, we're very much an auction-driven business. We have some of the best auctioneers in New Zealand, and when you take it to auction, you instantly see what is the market willing to pay for your property. And the only difference is, you might have more conditional buyers who can't pay cash at auction. So it might get to a certain level, and then you've got conditional buyers around that same amount who you can negotiate with afterwards. Yeah. So yeah, I think an auction is definitely the best way to see exactly what a buyer wants to pay for your home.
I don't know if it was a Bayleys house that sold down here not that long ago, but there was a house that I think got passed in an auction, and it was like a super lush house on the waterfront, and it got passed in for something like 8 mil. Mm-hmm. And then it got passed in at that, so it didn't get accepted, and then it ended up being sold for like 9.7 after the negotiations afterwards. Yeah. It was like...
And we say an auction isn't just a 4-week campaign. There's essentially 3 parts. So there's the auction campaign, and then there's that post-auction negotiation campaign, and then if it still isn't sold, it's that ongoing marketing of your property. So that would have been because if it was, super lush, a lot of people don't just have cash at auction, but they've got the money still, but it's conditional offers.
Yeah. It's a totally different buying cycle depending on also the price value of properties. Like, to be fair, if you've got enough money to buy a house for $5 million, you've probably got enough money to buy a house for $7 million as well. Like, to be honest. Whereas I feel like that, Bayleys does sell in this market as well, but I mean like that market of 800 to 1.4 where Eves sits, there is that much more of like that hustle to have both the people selling want as much as they can, obviously, but then the people buying, you've got way more people in that market to actually be competing against.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. I think it's still hard for people when you're selling, when 2 years ago, the house next door to me sold for 1.2. That's what I want for my property.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to get that. It's just, it's making sure a salesperson has all that information to really make sure the vendor knows this is what you're looking at getting. And then it's making sure the buyers, when they're dealing with them, they understand that as well. Because there's been a lot of buyers who have come in who just think they're going to get a bargain and just kind of lowball it. Well, vendors aren't going to just sell for free, So it's just trying to manage expectations of both parties.
Yeah. And what would you say is your recommendations for real estate agents wanting to advertise, like from whatever brand they are? Like, what do you think, in your opinion, works best?
Definitely digital. I think everywhere when people look for a real estate agent these days, they're going to go online, they're going to Google. So as long as you've got a really good digital persona and digital, like share a voice, people will be able to find you first and foremost, and then, making sure you've got really good bio, track record on your personal websites and that kind of thing, making sure your social media, you're adding value. You're not just putting up a post once a month. So it's making sure that people can find you online and they can see your skills and expertise and what you offer, so that's going to change their mind in terms of going with this person and you instead.
And market updates, right? I feel like...
So it's tips and tricks and that kind of thing. So it's providing value. So if someone's unsure of the selling process, they've never sold, they may have bought a house but never sold, it's providing them info that may make them know that you are that expert, providing market stats, updates on legislation changes, just tips about staging your property or how to make it look its best for when you are having open homes and that kind of thing. It's all that, kind of information.
And how much of a difference is there, or how much control does a real estate agent have over their commission structure? Like not their commission structure. Well, it is a commission structure really, because the reason I asked that is one of my mates was a real estate agent in Auckland, and he always had, like, when he would negotiate with vendors, that when he would sell, if it sold, he would basically put in all the marketing at, like, there'd be no fee for that. He'd basically give that back to vendor. And I'm like, in terms of that, how much control
Some
is there?
people do have a certain amount of control, but if an agent is willing to just drop commission, drop marketing, they're pretty desperate to get the business, and they're not necessarily the best agent. Yeah.
He, to be fair, did sell a lot of houses, but and I think he more did it on
this is a controversial. I don't know if my company wants me speaking to this. No.
That's right.
I mean, every company has their certain commission rates. There's room to move. Obviously, there's a difference if you're someone's here. I've got 15 sections I want you to sell, and there's a bit of a negotiated commission versus I've got one house. The commissions, very fair. I don't know how deep to go down this rabbit hole.
That's right.
It's like if you were looking for a plumber.
Yep.
And there was someone who was like, this is how much it costs because I'm an expert. And then someone who said, well, I'll do it for half the price. It potentially because they're not as experienced.
Yeah.
Expertise, resources, all that kind of thing. So you might, sometimes vendors, they look at the commission. I'm going to pay, say it's 30k commission to you instead of 35 commission to you because your commission rate's too high. But you may have saved $5,000, but this agent who's better could have got you 100k more or 50k more in the sale. So don't just look at commission, it's look at who is the best agent that is going to get the most for the sale of your property.
Well, lovely to have you on.
Thank you. Did you get anything?
Yeah, it'll be sweet.
Thanks for tuning in to another Squid Group podcast. If you're looking for a marketing partner to grow your brand, business, or event, contact us here at Squid Group. See you next time.